How's it going, and welcome to No Fun Allowed's guide series on Waterdeep Dragon Heist, a 5th edition module. In today's video, we'll be looking at the intro to Chapter 1. We are beginning the process of a long and epic journey throughout this entire campaign. Of course, there's going to be a ton of spoilers, so players do not watch this, but DMs then want added insight on how we are going to run this entire campaign. Let's go ahead and get started. This campaign takes from the motif and classic your players start in a tavern. However, this isn't just any ordinary tavern. This is the tavern. This is the Yawning Portal. The Yawning Portal, the veritable hotbed of excellent adventures. This is so ingrained in D&D's history because of the splendor that is Waterdeep, but also the fact that just residing underneath this awesome tavern is an immense and incredibly insane mega dungeon, the Undermountain. For the intro to Chapter 1 here, we get some information about what is going on in this chapter. This is how you get your players involved in the entirety of the campaign. You got to remember something. This book automatically assumes that your players are going to buy into the adventure and that they are going to be stumbling upon everything that happens to come their way. And it's going to be a blast if you and your players love playing in a roller coaster or a railroady adventure. Another assumption this book makes is that your players are already familiar with each other, that they are already a adventuring band that is just about to get started on their epic journeys and just happen to be here for a little bit of fun time. Mind you, that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. As long as you have that player buy-in, that they're willing to go ahead and work together, especially when the events here unfold, then it's perfectly fine. Now, what is this event that is going to domino affect your players into this grand and epic scheme throughout this entire campaign? Well, it just so happens to be a bar fight. Funnily enough, your players are going to observe that a one-half orc named Yagra is getting into a fight with some strange, tattooed individuals. Yagra Stonefist, a member of the Zentarum that is loyal to the Doom Divers, is in fact getting into a fight with several Xanathar Guild members. Your players have the option to go ahead and step right in which case they can go ahead and start letting fists fly, and they can be a ton of fun. Of course, not everyone is going to be involved in this bar fight because you might have some people who think that stuff is below them. That's perfectly fine too. This book gives you assumptions on what happens to either degree. Now, this is something very important that should be discussed here, is the fact that this is only a bar brawl. This is not daggers raised. There is no death threats right here. This is only a fist fight, so you should curtail any sort of murderous intent. If your players step in, then yeah, go ahead and have them roll initiative and have them throw some fisticuffs. It'll be a ton of fun. You know, starting off a campaign only a few minutes in and they're already getting into a fist fight, you know, that's a great way to start a campaign. That's certainly memorable. But that's not the only thing memorable from this scene, but we'll be getting into that in a moment. Your players go ahead and step in and help Yagra, or they just go ahead and observe and watch Yagra beat the snot out of these guys. Eventually, something is going to change, and it's going to be hilarious, scary, and dramatic. After 3 whole rounds of having this little bar brawl, then something crazy is going to happen. Standing there in the center of the Yawning Portal is that well that leads deep underground, and outclawing from it is a monstrous troll and several sturges that are being absolutely gorged upon this troll's blood. Once this troll makes its way out of the well, everyone is going to freak out. You're going to see everybody running every which way trying to get out of there, except for one person. They are definitely going to notice Durnan, the bartender of this location, go ahead and springboard into action, grabbing his trusted longsword right above the mantle and charging headlong into glorious combat. Now, for those of you that watch my other guide series, you would know that I always look at the battle maps and go ahead and show off the locations and some battle tactics here. Here's an unfortunate thing about this whole module. We are not given a map of the Yawning Portal. This is the only art piece that we've been given for the Yawning Portal in this module. And mind you, this is a pretty awesome one, especially if you are a super D&D nerd. You can definitely look around and spot a whole bunch of characters that have been made famous. And in fact, you can see one person around here is not even from this realm of existence, but still found their way in here. There's a lot of great stuff to be gleaned from this artwork, but it does not surface as a battle map. So I'm going to go ahead and provide a link down below to the Discord and to the Reddit. And in there, you can easily find amazing battle maps for the Yawning Portal, because the Yawning Portal certainly deserves an excellent rendition. Now here is another assumption that is made about this adventure. Your players start at level 1, which is typically how this goes. But here's the thing, a level 1 party cannot go up against a troll. They would easily die, they'd all get eaten up, and it would be terrible. That is what Durnan is for. You see, Durnan isn't just any ordinary person. This guy is an amazing adventurer. One could say that he is a legendary fighter. This guy can attack 4 times in a round. He's only got a +8 to hit. That's not that big of a deal. But guess what? He does a bejesus ton of damage, and he is going to destroy that troll without any issue at all. Durnan, being a legendary adventurer himself, and of course being the proprietor of this amazing establishment, he is going to recognize, just looking at the party, their skill level. He's going to know, hey, these guys cannot tackle trolls, so he's going to yell at the party, hey, I'll deal with the troll, you deal with the Sturges. And you should go ahead and present this scene where it's Durnan versus the troll on one side, and the Sturges are beginning to fly all about. So yes, 9 Sturges rise with that troll, but 3 of them are still a little bit hungry. So go ahead and start having those 3 Sturges start diving into whoever is nearby, whether that be the party or maybe even some unfortunate NPCs that have been caught up in this whole mess. Hopefully any group that you have can easily deal with 3 Sturges, and once they are dealt with, Durnan will be wrapping up the troll at the same time, and then your party can go ahead and get to the real adventure here. If anybody is knocked out by those Sturges, because natural 20s always happen, thankfully they're not going to die. There's enough patrons around here that are going to go ahead and help them out, and I would go ahead and recommend that if anybody does get injured to any degree around here, then some cleric springs forth from the massive crowd and casts some healing words on them or cure wounds, and they are topped right back off. And now here it begins, the actual trail to the amazing campaign that's presented before us. Once your players have dealt with this little incursion, Volo Thamp himself is going to see all the things that the party just did and invite them over, saying, "You be adventurers, am I right? I could use your help. Let's find a table and talk, shall we?" This is the one that your players have to be willing to go ahead and accept, because if they don't accept it, then you're going to have to do some serious rewrites here. Volo Thamp aka Volo, is an incredibly famous individual. The guy's got his face on books, and in fact, your players in real life might know that he is on the face of Volo's Guide to Monsters. Volo is not only famous in the real world, he's also famous in this world, so your players should instantly recognize the face and name. Volo is going to go into a little bit of exposition here. He's going to go ahead and talk about the recent gang violence that's been plaguing the streets. But more importantly, he's going to go ahead and talk about his missing friend, Floon Blagmar. You see, several nights ago, Volo and Floon went on the town drinking. And once Volo woke up from his bender, he looked around and could not find Floon anywhere. He fears that he is missing, or potentially worse. So he's going to go ahead and say, hey, I've got some gold I can go ahead and give you guys if you go ahead and help me out. So Volo is offering each of the players a reward of 10 gold for accepting this request. However, things aren't always up and up for Volo. Unfortunately for him, he is waiting for a cash revenue from his recent book, Volo's Guide to Monsters, and he hasn't received payment yet. So he's actually moved here to Waterdeep to research his newest book, Volo's Guide to Spirits Inspectors. Volo's going to say a lot of things to get the players on board to find his missing friend, and he's going to go ahead and describe what he looks like. He's a handsome dude, red hair, and the last time he was seen was in the dock ward by the Skewered Dragon. So what actually happened that night? Well, we get some really great information here. Volo and Floon both went to the Skewered Dragon and drank that night, but eventually Volo decided to call it quits early. After a little bit of time, Floon met with another acquaintance of theirs named Renaer Neverember. Renaer Neverember is an incredibly important figure in this whole equation because he's the son of the guy that hid all that money away. So here's another funny thing too. They happen to look somewhat similar. They're both tall, good-looking guys with red hair-ish, and unfortunately for the both of them, they both get captured. 5 Zhentarim thugs working for Urstel Floxen nabbed the both of them and took them away to a local hideout. The reason for this kidnapping is that the Zhentarim believes that Renaer Neverember knows what the Stone of Galore is. What is the Stone of Galore? It is this creepy thing, a little rock with eyes. But we of course know better. We know that this thing is an incredibly wondrous item. This thing used to be in Aboleth, but now holds the key to the Vault of Dragons. So the Zhentarim is about to interrogate these individuals about the Stone of Galore, but unfortunately for them, the Xanathar Guild then raided that place. The new rivals mistook Floon for Renaer, knocked Floon unconscious, and dragged him away while Renaer hid and escaped their notice. So this is the big deal. Your players are on the trail for someone who is now, unfortunately, been tossed hands by multiple people here. Floon was taken by the Xanathar Guild to a local hideout in the sewers. Pretty gross. A small gang of Kenku, however, were left to guard the Zhentarim warehouse and kill any Zents who show up. The presence of these Kenku has prevented Renaer from trying to leave the warehouse. So that information's all well and good, but how are your players going to find the trail? Well, that's where we find finding Floon. Your players really only have one place to start this investigation from, the Skewered Dragon down in the dock wards. And this is where the campaign is going to shine. This is where you're going to start showing off the intricacies of having a campaign set in a single city. You're going to show off the awesome buildings, the great locales, and the vibrant people that are located here. And to really make this place come to life, you're going to show off some death. As your players are meandering through the dock wards, they're unfortunately going to stumble across what appears to be a bloody gang fight. You're going to show off blood in the streets here, and this is where your players are going to see that gang combat that was talked about previously. The fact that the Zhentarim and the Xanathar are fighting in the streets, and it's terrible and gross and is disturbing a lot of the people in the city. As your players begin searching the dock ward, once again, just pour in this excellent text that you can show off to your players, really making this place come to life. The most interesting one here, of course, is the old Zoblob shop. Now look at all this incredible detail we get about this just random place. This place isn't significant to the campaign. You'll never actually really come here again, but we get so much detail about it, and that is what your players are going to come to expect. They're going to think that around every corner is this amazing place that they'll happen to stumble upon, and that is up to your discretion whether you flesh out the city or not. Once again, joining the Discord and joining the Reddit is an excellent font of amazing information that you can go ahead and flesh out the city with. So let's go ahead and look at the old Zoblob shop here. When your players step in, and they'll be able to see that just everything is purple. No reason at all. Everything's just purple. Up, down, left, and right. The ceiling, the floors, the walls. Everything is purple. And standing in there is a deep gnome that is clearly insane, or at least extremely happy. But in reality, this wizened gnome is actually a spy for the Xanathar Guild. So we get all this amazing detail about this location, but once again, sadly, we're not given a map of this area. But thankfully, I have a solution for that. Now look at this awesome map of just a random location. This incredible map is done by Foxglove Armor. I'm going to go ahead and have links down below as well. Amazing artwork for amazing little locations, and I highly recommend using these. I'm going to be using these throughout this entire series, I promise you, because this art is just so well done and really brings this vibrant, beautiful city to life. So your players go ahead and look inside here because this is located right next to the Skewered Dragon, and they may go ahead and start shopping around a bit, but most important of all, they may be asking about Floon. Your players can go ahead and make a DC 13 Charisma check, and old Zoblob here will go ahead and reveal that he saw Renaer Neverember get jumped. Zoblob thinks that there were 5 attackers, but none of them look familiar. One of them had a black tattoo of a winged snake on his neck. So if your players already know about the Zhentarim, that's going to stick out like a sore thumb. But if your players don't know about that, then that might be a fun little clue that they may go ahead and start diving into. Once your players start investigating around a little bit more, they'll find this Skewered Dragon. Once again, a Foxglove Armor map. Beautiful stuff. It is inside the Skewered Dragon that your players can go ahead and once again do another DC 13 Charisma check to discover Floon's fate. But this time they'll get a lot more information here. They will understand that Volo and Floon came here together, but then Volo left, and then after Volo left, that's when Renaer Neverember showed up. The two of them started hanging out together, and when they left, that is when they got jumped by 5 Zhentarim members. Now, once again, this is a very important detail here. If your players don't know who Neverember is, then this name isn't going to register at all. But if you do have people that know that, when you say the word aloud, Renaer Neverember, that's going to be a big deal. Especially if they go ahead and do this little chortle here of saying, chip off the old block, that one, or just another spoiled rich noble who likes to rub our noses in it. Hopefully this will really get your players' wheels turning if they hear that a noble got kidnapped because, hey, if they save a noble, maybe they'll get more reward money. The men who left with Renaer and Floon haven't returned to the tavern since. However, they're known to frequent a warehouse in Candle Lane. Look for a snake symbol on the door. Once again, more information tying that to the Zentarum. Once they know it's Candle Lane, that's when you can go ahead and show off the map and really show off that, at any given point, your players could be diving into any one of these random locations located all about all these city streets. That's awesome. There are hundreds of streets located in here, and they're all brimming with amazing lore. If you look at some of the older content that's come out for Waterdeep, you'll discover a bevy of knowledge. Sadly, this book doesn't come with enough. It does come with quite a lot in Volo's Enchiridion, but still, there is just so much jam-packed in here, and just look at that. You can go ahead and say, oh yeah, to find Candle Lane, you go ahead and go down the Way of the Dragon, and take a left there, across the street from Brian Street. That's fantastic, right? There's just so much world building to all these named locations. Once your players arrive to Candle Lane, that is when they are going to see that this place isn't living up to its name. Unfortunately, a lot of the street lamps are destroyed, and this place doesn't really have too much going on. But once they head down there, they'll discover that there is one street lamp remaining intact, and if they go ahead and go across the street from it, that is where they're going to find the warehouse that is owned by the Zentarum, but now being held by the Xanathar. Now, the length of this intro chapter really depends on how much you RP as a group and if your players like investigating and how much they dig combat. This chapter 1 here can be as simple as a single session, or it could be drawn out by multiple sessions, depending on how much they want to roleplay when they're walking down the street, how much interaction they get up to with the people around, and what they discover once they finally arrive. That is going to do it for this video, though. This is just the beginning. This is the trickle trail of this investigation. Do you play up the investigation to try and find Floon as a incredibly hard detective case? Or do you just go ahead and say, okay, you arrive at this location, what do you do? Okay, you arrive to the next location you want to do? That really depends on the group that you have. Do you like a group that likes a point crawl, or do they want a super in-depth discussion? That's really up to them, right? And that's really up to the group as a whole. And what are they going to discover once they finally get to Candle Lane in that warehouse? They're going to find a bloodbath, but they're also going to find a new friend, Renaer Neverember. That will be covered in the next video, though. That is going to do it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all my awesome patrons up here. You guys are absolutely awesome. Thank you so very much. That is going to do it for me. Thank you so much for listening, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next one.